I am not a time traveler. Howdy, and welcome back. If things look a little different, it's because my wall is empty, and they are empty because of what is in this box. After a few months of making videos on this channel, project videos, restorations, reviews, I thought it was about time that I stopped using a 110-year-old barley twist table to do everything on. I'm lucky I haven't damaged it yet, but I've come close a couple times. So, I bought this. So this is my new workbench. Now, we do have two sheds, but the reason I don't use those to do projects is because, well, they don't have electricity or cooling or heating. Not that this room really has cooling or heating, but at least it has electricity, and it does stay relatively cool during the summer and warm during the winter. Now this is the bottom end of workbenches. This goes for $100, not on sale. I bought it on sale, so I got it even cheaper. These are not particularly good, and if you start going to Harbor Freight's website and really looking at the reviews, not just the first few, but really digging in there, they seem to have a lot of problems. But I figure if I don't follow the instructions too closely, I modify what I don't like, I might be able to get a usable bench out of this. Now, I'm an old-fashioned guy. I like things a certain way. There's a lot of stuff on this I don't like. So I'm going to change it and make it into an actual halfway decent bench. Don't think I'm going to need these though. Just to be safe though, maybe I should take a look. These first 3 pages are literally nothing but safety guides. This is just about grounding. Well, looks like I'm going to have to tear the whole thing down and start all over. See right here. Didn't read the instructions. I was supposed to put this stupid little warning label on the front. I put it on the back. Oh well. Okay, but seriously, it's time to talk about some real problems. Problem number one, quite a few of these holes do not line up that well, especially the ones in the pegboard. But I didn't have to drill any out. I was able to just kind of push them on through and screw them in with the screwdriver. Made a little bit extra work, but that's not too bad. Problem beta. These are the screws that hold all of this together so far. These are not lock washers or lock nuts, and there are no lock washers included. So to fix that, because these coming loose was a big complaint in the comments of the of Harbor Freight's website, I put non-permanent thread locker on everything. These are also Phillips, and they are stripping out like you would not believe. I don't know why they're Phillips. They should really be actual bolts, or at very least slotted screws, because they tend to strip out less, but you know, they are going together and it is fairly strong. Problem C. These instructions are not very good. The pictures aren't terrible, but they don't always say the order you need to do everything. For example, in putting these top two pieces on, you're not supposed to put in the bottom bolt back here because it also goes through the pegboard. It mentions that in the next step, but doesn't mention that in the prior one where you're actually putting it on. Kind of irritating. The other problem with them is that a few pieces on this, it seems to think that there are two separate labeled pieces. In actuality, what should be 17L and 17R is 17L-R, and there's two of them. Confused? So was I. But they're the same, so it doesn't really seem to matter. In fact, quite a few of these parts are relatively interchangeable. It also doesn't really clarify which way these are supposed to go on, so I had to figure that one out, but everything is together so far. This is all the basic frame. Problem Ninu. This is a three-way outlet. It is supposed to attach right over here, but I don't really see the point in it. It's rather poorly made. Some people in reviews of this claim that it caught fire or short-circuited. That was probably user error, but you know, better be safe than sorry. And I don't really know why I would need more than one outlet. But I can think of something that would be more useful. This is the outlet from a 1930s, 1940s sewing machine. It has two plugs on it. The light plug, which is just a normal 120 volt plug, and the motor plug, which is connected to this. That means that if I put this over here and attach it, I will have a nice foot pedal that I can control the speed of anything I need to. Well, relatively anything. It won't handle large motors. It won't handle... Oh, let's see if I can get this gal up here. Oh, this big giant GE bench motor. It won't handle that, but... I can barely handle that. It will handle my Dremel. It will handle my electric screwdriver, which is also in here somewhere. And why am I not using that? Well, I'm already this far in. No point in hooking it up now. And it'll handle a few other small things as well. So it will be more useful to me than the three-way outlet. And I can modify this bracket just a little bit to get it in place. There is still one problem with that, and that's that in my nice magnetic bowl here, I have part of the bracket mounted over here already. But I have one screw in the bottom, no screw in the top. This is the second bracket. I have one bracket, two screws. Now either I can't count, which could be, or I'm missing a screw, which I think is pretty likely. But that's not too big of an issue. I kind of figured I'd be missing more by now, and it actually looks like I might end up having a bit of extras, which is kind of worrisome, but hey. Now the next part is going to be the drawers. There are a lot of people who have reported issues with the drawers. They've said that the drawers have actually fallen out of the guides. They've said that the inserts are too small. They've said that the handles break easily, but I don't think that can be true. Yeah, so that one's okay though, because this is the handle I'm going to be using. This is a modern production of a hammered type handle. The reason I'm choosing this to begin with, even before this was broke, well, before I knew it was broke, is because I have a two-sided drawer which I'm going to put either on the top or the bottom. It was built by my grandfather about 100 years ago, and I went ahead and painted it navy blue to kind of match this. And the handles on it are the real versions of these, not the cheap sort of pressed version that this is. But it was either copper plated or it may be coppered and it just needed polished. I'm not sure, but I wanted to match really well, so I went ahead and just painted those copper, and I painted the new ones copper. So I'm going to put these on. Should bring it together, make everything match really well, and it'll give me a nice metal handle. So let's go ahead and see how much fun I'm going to have building the drawers. For all the problems people have been having with these drawers, I haven't really had any. The bearings work just fine on them. They sit in here well. They're not coming out. They're not loose at all. In fact, this one's a little bit too tight maybe at worst. The handles I replaced and they're no longer an issue. And the boards in here, they aren't fastened down, I will say that, but they are perfectly sturdy. I'm never going to have that much weight in that drawer. So the next part are the three boards. There's one big one at the bottom for the shelf, one little one at the top for the shelf, and then the work area. This is what's included. It's essentially a piece of particle board with either plastic or vinyl coating. It's not very good. This is what we're going to use instead. This is a 3/4 inch of plywood, which has already been stained and cut and drilled. And right there's our work area. I'm going to use 1/2 inch on the bottom and probably 1/2 inch, maybe even 1/4 at the top. And I'm just going to do the same thing. I did have to cut these corners out a little bit because this is a bit thicker than the pieces it came with, which just means it's much stronger. I mean, this thing is much, much stronger, and it is a bit lighter too, which is, I guess, of some benefit if you need to move the workbench. So let's get this screwed on and then get the other two. So there's only one part left on our bench to put on, and that is a lightsaber. This is the light it came with, which doesn't work very well. Oh, there we go. Now it's off again. Besides not working very well, it's kind of blue. It's more of an accent light than it is a workbench light. But I do actually have an actual workbench light. I have this thing. This is a very, very, very old workbench light made by Fairy's Lamps. It actually comes out. It can go forward, and then you tighten the little thing here so that it stays in place, pointed wherever you need it to be pointed at. And it swivels as well and clamps on. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have any place to clamp it on this, so I'm going to have to sort of make something for that. Same thing on the other side, because I have a grinder wheel that needs to be clamped on. But that means that the bench is done, which means, ladies, it's time to accessorize. So it's been a while. I'm not going to go into full details right now. I will put a video up later this week that explains why the channel's been dead for the last year and a half. Basically what you need to know: 1st of the month will be a video, 15th of the month will probably be a video, and there may be a few other videos in between. The 15th of this month will be a video on the email computer that I set up for my mom for this thing that we're not allowed to talk about. And the 1st of next month will be my TRS-80 inspired Tower 900 computer build. Now with that over, we'll talk about this. Now, being gone from this channel for the last year and a half has given me sort of an interesting perspective on this desk, because I have put it through the ringer. I have had engines on this, transmissions on this, literally hundreds of projects. I have been on this because, well, that is one of the entrances to our attic. And this thing is just too heavy to move out of the way. Now, of course, I changed a few things. I changed the boards. I meticulously went through and put Loctite on all of these screws, which, regardless of whether you think you need to change the boards, you need to do that. And I'm going to tell you why right now. With everything I've done, with all the sawing and the hammering and the paint stripping and the painting and the disassembling and the engine blocks and the, not the engine block for my truck, mind you, that thing weighs 800 pounds, but with all the different stuff that I've done with this, there is still no play. Look, I'm just pushing this whole desk over when I try and move it, which is not easy to do. This is the amount of play. So, in final review, if you treat this like a starter, somewhere to just get you going into building a decent workbench, I think these are fantastic for the price. Honestly, this will last me the rest of my life. This is not going to wear out. The drawers are still working just fine, and it's been able to do everything I've thrown at it. And for how cheap it is, you could buy multiple ones and put them end to end. We're moving in 3 years. If I have a bit of extra workspace, which I probably will, I may buy another one of these and have them end to end. That's a real possibility with this because of how cheap it is. And again, I will stress, no matter what, use Loctite. Absolutely. You could even go a step above and switch out all the nuts, or the Phillips screws and nuts, but use Loctite or some kind of thread locker. It's the best tool you will have building this. But it is fantastic, and like I said, I expect this to last the rest of my life. It has held up perfectly well. Yes, it has a few scratches and some paint and some nicks, but that's what a workbench is. It is a tool that gets abused, and this has stood up to the abuse remarkably well. That's it for this time. Thanks for watching, and happy trails.